but they did a lot of little things that I really appreciated, such as using a lot of YouTube clips in creative ways and not having a narration voiceover. Hey everybody, my name is Nick. I'm a director and editor living in Taiwan. And today I'm going to be talking about the documentary, The YouTube Effect, directed by Alex Winter. So, The YouTube Effect is a documentary about YouTube. The creator of YouTube, Steve Chen, is from Taiwan. So a good portion of this documentary, the interviews with Steve Chen and some B-roll footage, was shot in Taiwan with the Taiwan crew. It was shot during COVID, so interestingly, a lot of it was done remotely, which is a cool thing about how the production was made. So I was invited to a screening of this documentary hosted by the crew that shot the Taipei portions of the film. And there was a Q&A with the director, producer, and Steve Chen after the screening, which was pretty interesting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I thought about the movie and what I thought about the Q&A afterwards. So in the spirit of YouTube, I actually decided I'm going to live react to my own review. So I'm just going to be watching this along with you guys, and I'll pause it every once in a while, make some comments. So something I really liked about the documentary is that it wasn't made in the more standard kind of like Netflix documentary talking head style. It was a little bit of a talking head documentary, a lot of interviews, very comprehensive. It gave you a lot of information, but they did a lot of little things that I really appreciated, such as using a lot of YouTube clips in creative ways and not having a narration voiceover or too many titles telling you what was going on.
It was a lot more dynamic. Like, they did a lot of really interesting things with the YouTube clips that they were using to illustrate their points. They kind of blended it in with the documentary really well. So you're probably noticing that this is a totally different location. I'm wearing different clothes. This was filmed sometime after. Actually, when I was filming the first part, I had a little bit of technical difficulties. The microphone I was using broke, so I couldn't finish shooting that day, so I ended up having to film the rest of the review much later. For some reason, the sound is kind of weird. This new mic that I got, I think hopefully it sounds better now. Yeah, I'm not sure why. And the video isn't the best either, so I don't know. I'm very critical of myself after the fact. There's a really particularly good sequence where they're showing the Charlie Bit My Finger video and then contrasting it with a lot of the more dangerous stuff that has come out of YouTube to illustrate their point very, very well. The editing in that section is pretty nice. They also use a lot of handheld in the interviews, and while they're interviewing a subject, they move around a little bit, giving it a very dynamic feel that's different than, the standard thing that you would expect from a talking head documentary. And I really appreciated that, because what I think the creator was doing was trying to mimic a YouTube video. So on that same vein, I think what I meant to say was in that same vein, something that as I thought about it, I liked a lot more and more was the way in which the subject kind of jumped around as he was talking. So it's a movie about YouTube, but as it gets early on and it's telling you about YouTube, it goes off on a tangent and starts talking about what is film, right? What is film stock and how does it work and and just very, very kind of briefly. Then it goes back into its story about YouTube, but any kind of little tangent that it feels like making, it'll take it for a little while to help illustrate its overall point. And it's a little disjointing, to be honest, at first when I was watching it. But the more I thought about it, I realized that in a way, the way that this film works mimicked a YouTube experience a little bit. And I definitely think that was intentional, especially when you consider some of the aspects of the dynamic shooting, the handheld, the way that the topics were explored was as if you were surfing YouTube and next up video pops up and you say, I'm going to click on this for a little bit. And then be like, oh yeah, I was learning about YouTube. I'm going to go back to that. So I think that's really, really cool. And I also think that, it's not like a standard documentary, but it's so interesting because I think that the point of this movie was to speak to young people about the dangers of kind of media and responsible media usage, is YouTube being the dominant media that they get their information from. And I think creating it and utilizing the YouTube style of information is a really good strategy for retaining the attention of the modern YouTube user. Sometimes I thought like, I wonder why it's talking about this right now. But I was never ever bored watching this movie, and I think that's a key point, is that it held my attention really well, and I think that definitely was in part due to the fact that it was constructed a lot like you were surfing YouTube videos. So something they mentioned in the Q&A was like they wanted to be very objective, and they don't want to put forth too strong of a point of view, tell the viewer what to think about the movie. That is a very common thing that people who make documentaries wish to portray. It is something that I have to call a little bit of bullshit on, though, because obviously if you do study documentary a little bit, you know that there really is no way to be objective. Probably people who created the movie are like, well, duh. But, you are putting forth the point of view by the subjects that you choose to discuss and cover. And in the Q&A of the film, I really wanted to ask this question, which was to get to the heart of that idea of like their point of view. So I wanted to ask, why did you decide to make this general movie about YouTube? What was your objective? I think that Alex Werner, the director, and the people who made this movie really love YouTube and think it's a good tool, but they see a lot of problems with it, and they believe that inherent in the thing itself is the way to fix that thing. So if we, the YouTube creators, use YouTube responsibly, if the YouTube team creates policy that is positive, everything surrounding this thing, if it's the responsibility of people to use it in a good way, and that's not obviously going to be in the interest of money a lot of the time, so there needs to be regulation. It's not going to be in the interest of creators a lot of times, so we need more responsible ones than irresponsible ones. This film is a plea for people to be responsible with media, and it's also an educational tool, like I mentioned, for younger people to be responsible with the things they consume. I think a really good thing that could come out of this movie is that it's a step towards media literacy. And media literacy is so important. This is a movie about understanding where YouTube came from, some of the dangers of YouTube, some of the things that have happened because of YouTube in our society. And, it's a media tool. And I think a lot of young people don't understand that, how strong of a thing it is. And they just, they go home, they watch YouTube while they're cutting up fruit or whatever the heck they do, and they don't really think about it that much. Most people don't. And so when they come across a video that's like 9/11, maybe I'll stay away from that one.
Yeah, probably best to not mention that on YouTube.
When they come across a video that is like the earth is flat, they take it at face value because, why would they think so much about the things they're consuming? But if we can teach people from a very young age to really think about it, really understand that there's consequences to media consumption in the same way that there are consequences to food consumption, then that can really help and affect the world. And I think that is the goal of this movie. And I think that is why ultimately my criticism of it as a very general thing and wishing that it was a little more focused actually probably doesn't matter that much, because to achieve the goal that it wants to, it needs to be pretty general. We need to teach people about all of the aspects surrounding YouTube in order to get them to be more responsible.
What I meant was, the fact that this movie is general is kind of the point. This movie wants to be general. It wants to teach in general to a mass audience about being responsible on the YouTube platform.
I'm on YouTube creating what I believe is good, responsible content that doesn't always get a lot of views. And I could be chasing the algorithm a little bit more. I definitely have seen trends in certain videos that I've made that I could make more of those types of videos to kind of chase
This is a little presumptuous
the
of me.
views. But the mission of this channel is to highlight certain kinds of cinema that I really enjoy. And I want to stick to that. I don't want to be creating content because the algorithm told me to. I want to create the content that I want to make because I think it's important, and I believe that eventually people will want to watch that. So, I think this movie was a really good thing for me to watch because it kind of affirmed that, it's important. Maybe I could make a little bit more money if I made a certain kind of thing, but that's ultimately, if everybody on YouTube was only doing that, that's bad for the media environment there. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. I gotta say this in a video about YouTube. Remember to like, share, subscribe.
Remember to like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching the video. If you want me to review any other movie, let me know in the comments below. Bye-bye.